Have you ever experienced extreme delusions or hallucinations? Ever talked to someone only to realize that they weren't there? Have you ever had less or inappropriate emotional expression while in public? These are signs of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is defined as a psychological disorder characterized by delusions, hallucinations, disorganized speech, and or diminished or inappropriate emotional expression. Schizophrenia also meaning split mind, splitting between reality and disturbed perceptions of reality. The major symptoms of schizophrenia is disorganized speech and disturbed perceptions, meaning people who have it feeling like their thoughts are always jumbled and can lead to a breakdown of selective attention, as well as seeing and or hearing things that aren't real. One category of these symptoms are delusions, which are false beliefs that are not amendable to change in light of conflicting evidence. One example of this is thinking you're being harmed or harassed by people, or thinking someone you've spoken to once is in love with you. Similarly, there are hallucinations, which are false sensory experience, such as seeing something in the absence of an external stimulus. Being able to perceive something without an external stimulus can be through all senses, but hearing voices is the most common. Symptoms include those of brain abnormalities. During a research project, researchers discovered something that happens in the brain of schizophrenia patients after death. There is an excess of receptors for dopamine. This has led to speculation such as hyper-responsive dopamine system may intensify brain signals in schizophrenia, creating positive symptoms such as hallucinations and paranoia. One remedy would be drugs that block dopamine receptors often lessen these symptoms. However, drugs that increase dopamine levels, such as amphetamines and cocaine, sometimes intensify them. Another big factor is abnormal brain activity and anatomy. It has been shown through brain scanning techniques that many people with chronic schizophrenia have abnormal activity in multiple brain areas. Patients could also suffer from abnormally low brain activity in the frontal lobes, which are critical for reasoning, planning, and problem solving, along with a decrease in brain waves reflect the synchronized natural firing in the frontal lobes. Contributing to symptoms of schizophrenia is that out-of-sync neurons may disrupt the integrated function of neural networks. While studying the PET scans of brain activity of those hallucinating, researchers discovered that when the patients heard a voice or saw something, that their brains became vigorously activated in several core regions, including the thalamus. Another finding with people with paranoia found increased activity in the amygdala, which is the fear processing center. Many of the other studies also found that fluid-filled areas and corresponding shrinkage and thinning of the cerebral tissue in people with schizophrenia. Along with brain abnormalities, there would later develop disorder, meaning it can sometimes be predicted if you develop schizophrenia. Obviously, the question what causes these abnormalities pops up. Perhaps it's mishaps during prenatal development and delivery, because risk factors for schizophrenia during birth is low birth weight, maternal disease, old paternal age, and oxygen deprivation during delivery. However, some have said that things like disease outbreaks in a country or famine may also contribute to the risk of schizophrenia. Genetics also play a role in the development of schizophrenia. 1 in 10 people with the disorder also have siblings or parents with the disorder. Researchers have also found that the twins who shared a placenta have a 6 in 10 chance of being similarly affected. Twins who had a separate placentas are only a 1 in 10 chance. Adoption studies have shown that regardless of the new environment, children have a higher risk if a biological parent is diagnosed with schizophrenia. However, twin adoption studies have shown that the predisposition to the disorder is inherited and the environmental factors influence gene expression to enable it. As we know, family and social factors cannot contribute towards schizophrenia. However, some early warning signs in the environment are a mother whose schizophrenia was severe and long-lasting, birth complications, separation from parents, short attention span, and poor muscle coordination, disruptive or withdrawn behavior, emotional unpredictability, and poor peer relations and solo play. Although in teenagers, the signs are slightly different. Signs for teenagers include withdrawal from friends and family, a drop in performance at school, troubled sleeping, irritability or depressive mood, and lack of motivation. You can also point out symptoms and signs of schizophrenia when there are inappropriate emotions like we talked about earlier, like when your friends laugh when she talks about her grandmother's death, or when the same friend got visibly upset for no reason. Patients can experience an emotional state of flat affect where they have difficult perceiving facial emotions and reading other states of mind. Along with emotional outbursts, there are physical ones too, like rocking back and forth or scratching their arms. Some may experience a state where they become motionless for hours and then become agitated when it's considered catatonia. Catatonic schizophrenia is a subtype of schizophrenia, a mental illness that can cause hallucinations, delusions, and a flattened affect. That includes both symptoms of schizophrenia and catatonia. Catatonia is a motor disease that impairs a person's movement, speech, and response to outside stimuli. It's usually a symptom of another neurological or mental health condition and can be diagnosed as a type of schizophrenia. Now that we can easily identify and define the symptoms and brain activities of those with schizophrenia, let's discuss the different types. The first is chronic schizophrenia. Chronic schizophrenia is a slow developing process and recovery is doubtful. Those who suffer with the chronic condition of the disorder tend to have the so-called negative symptoms like a toneless voice, mute or rigid bodies, or even expressionless face. The other type of schizophrenia is acute, which develops quite rapidly. However, recovery is much more likely in the case because it usually develops after certain life stresses, for example, death of a loved one, loss of home or job, etc. Contrary to chronic, acute endures more positive symptoms that can be responsive to drug therapy. Even though you may feel like you do experience illusions and hallucinations by talking to someone who isn't really there, or having inappropriate emotional expression in public, or have suspicion that someone is talking bad about you or that one kid that is the love of your life. However, in those without the disorder, they do not talk nonsensically and do not fear the world is plotting against us. Their anxiety and behavior are seen on much a smaller scale than those who have been diagnosed.